Ministry of Science and Innovation that was prior to its merger with the Ministry for Business, Innovation and Mobi. Yeah.
Thank you. I call Gareth Hughes.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Kia ora. I rise to speak on the Patents Bill and its ugly cousin, the Minister's amendments. Mr Speaker, I'm pleased to be saying the Green Party will be voting against this bill in its second reading. I mean, talk about messing it up. I mean, it's been high time we've updated our antiquated 1950s patent law. I know it's laughed at around the world. It's laughed at by patent lawyers. It's good we're modernising it, but talk about messing it up, because where we've messed it up, where the Minister's dropped the ball, is around software patents. The Minister's irresponsibly tabled this significant amendment which has muddied this crystal clear, unambiguous consensus that came out of the Select Committee that software shouldn't be patented. Software shouldn't be patented because what we're talking about is code. It's like we're talking about maths. Copyright is fine. This is about protecting New Zealand's thriving, growing ICT and software development industry. FOSS has muddied the waters with the introduction of two new words, only two words, the as such, which is what is scaring our thriving industry. The industry, I think rightly, is describing it as a stab in the back. They're describing it as being thrown under the bus. Now, these aren't your extremists. These are people like the New Zealand Institute of IT professionals. We're talking about the Open Source Society. We're talking about Internet New Zealand. We're talking about some very respected, very influential people, and we hope the government listens to them, because they've introduced this huge legal... Arise, don't want to miss anyone out, the Open Source Society, Orion, Jade. I've only got 5 minutes, so I won't go through the whole list, because there's another 1,000 people and software developers who have added their name to this list. So the government's introduced this huge legal loophole with no consultation, with no ability for the Select Committee to have any scrutiny over it. It's highly irresponsible. They're looking to Europe, but I don't know why you'd look to Europe on this measure when what we see there is a great deal of litigation. And what we want to see in New Zealand, if we want to see our economy going forward, we want to have our innovators innovating. We don't want to have our innovators litigating. And that's exactly what we're going to see under this. So the government has thrown away that consensus. We saw on the Select Committee that software shouldn't be patentable. Copyright is perfectly fine. You know, it was a unanimous call out of the Select Committee of all the parties involved. Mr Speaker, I think it's patently absurd that this government is standing up here today saying, well, we don't think software should be patented too. Well, if that's what they believe, say it in the laws of our country. Don't just say it in the House. This is what the IT industry wants to hear. And the key question that's got to be asked is who benefits from the changes the government... We know it's the multinationals. We know they're the ones with the deep pockets, the big legal teams who are going to benefit from this. Now, I don't want to talk ill of lawyers, patent lawyers, because as Mr Cunliffe pointed out, there's a great deal of defensive patenting. Many of them do a great job. What we want to see, though, is our creators, be they manufacturers or software developers, creating, not litigating. We saw the government sit on their hands for years, despite the very strong calls of the industry to get move on and pass the patents law as came out. Big concerns the TPPA was influencing that. I think quite rightly so. We see our government literally throwing policemen out of helicopters to arrest alleged copyright infringer, the Mega Upload case, and the Skynet legal case. Laws, we saw the US government offering to write the legislation for the government. We should be rightly concerned. Now, Mr Speaker, it's irresponsible because we've had no Select Committee scrutiny of this significant change to the legislation that changes the whole effect of the law. I called for the government to send it back to the Select Committee. I acknowledge people have been waiting an awful long time for this law to get passed, but they want to see a good law passed. They don't want to see this. Mr Speaker, we've only heard a red herring justification from the government why they're doing it. The fact is this red herring which they're clasping onto is trying to mask the fishy thing that's happening. And the irony is that what they're trying to do, and everyone agrees that software, that inventions that use embedded software should be patentable, just not the software in it. The irony is the government is introducing even more legal uncertainty into the issue. We're going to see more legal cases And I think the Fisher Paykells of this world should be concerned, because now they're going to have to decide what as such means, and it's going to be the lawyers who are going to be benefiting, not the creators, not the innovators, not the manufacturers. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate all the groups that have formed the No Software Patent Group. They've come up with an elegant, common sense, simple solution, which I urge the government to adopt. Look, Mr. Speaker, it's simple. The government needs to throw out this amendment before we vote on it. Support the amendment.
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. His time has expired. This debate is concluded. The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that the government has decided not to take its last call, because it gives the chance for the opposition to reinforce the position